Welcome to the Geometric View,
Congratulations.
Season 4,
You've made it.
Episode 38.
This is going to be amazing.
We're going to get into body curves, similarities of plasma pinches,
Oh, yeah, we are.
and how bodies pinch and curve, the vortexture of life. We're also going to get into the spine, Z-pinch, butterfly, Vajra, the bones, how it's all electric, M&Ms, two humps, double arches, twin peaks, stock market,
The best way to
the
support
breast,
us is
and the
on
buttocks.
PayPal. goldenscaling@gmail.com. Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody. Let me see if I can hear. I can't. Oh, I got my mic right here. That's why I can't hear. All right. Let's see. Okay, still giving out the calls, still going out here. We got Danny Kleinheinz in the house. Okay, for the viewers at home, welcome to the Geometric View, episode 38. Calls are still going out. Welcome everybody who's here. Welcome YouTube audience. This episode is going to be about body curves and similarities of plasma pinches, bones, body structure, and body curves. So let me hop right into it here and share my screen. Share. All right. I'm going to go into the chat here. I shared some images, and this is the map that I created today. So this is, I titled it The Curve. And this curve here is right inside of the Dougherty set. And it comes from the pinch, or a compression of the field, the unified field, or the Dougherty set, the Dougherty network. This is a pinch in that, like a Z pinch. So I've taken this recursive pattern in here, and I've broken it apart into the different dynamics of it. And as I was working on it, I saw all sorts of different things. So I think we can see the different. I can go through one by one here and show the audience and everybody here exactly what it is that I've created, or that I'm stumbling upon, or that we're going to get into. So this one curve right here is this right here, when you rotate a wire mesh around it and create it into a 3D frame. This is this shape right here, this, and this curve is mainly what we're going to be getting into today. You can see that when you create the hyperbolic shape or the plasmoid pinch, and you rotate it and create these, you can turn each one of them into the subsequent two different shapes. The what you have as the positive and negative shape, which would also be considered the space and counter space. So A is the network of the Dougherty set. B is this field pinching, which we could call the space, and this would be the counter space, what is in between it. you can't really describe, I don't like to really describe anything without describing the counter space, because there's more than two things in all sorts of different types of ways to look at things. So I like to open our perception and perspectives so as to be able to see these outer shapes and inner shapes, and an inside and an outside of things. So this is the what my friend calls the hallways of always. And you can also see the Bessel function here, or the target type shape that is always recurrent as the, I guess, modality of how these waves ultimately oscillate outward from the sun, or someone's voice, or sound moves in this manner. It creates bubbles, and these are the same things as like auditory waves. So we're going to get deep into it and show how these basic simple shapes are also what our bones are constructed of, and the Vajra, and a bunch of other things. So you can see naturally these look like butterflies at the top when the fields are put next to each other. The constructive and destructive wave fields, or the positive and negative wave fields. Then you can come down and see that I wrote that I guess this isn't even the best way to look at it. I can look at it right here, and we can see it a lot better. So this, oh, there we go. And I took these shapes and I rotated them on regular polyhedrons, or polygons, and star tetrahedrons, David stars and things. Here. It might take a minute because, yeah, it's not responding. All right. Yeah, this is going to be touchy because it's using a lot of random access memory. So we'll just go with this one for now until that one's done having a fit. So I've taken this and put it on a triangle, these simple shapes. This is one inside of the other. So this is both I and J put together, and you get H. And H is a really cool weaving type pattern. So ultimately, they're portals, they're pinches, there's opening and closings. This is a closed shape. This is an open shape. This is it on a square inside of a square. And it kind of reminds me, looking at this, of like a peanut, and it actually has that hash like patterns of a peanut in the shell. This is it, I think, inside. Square within a square, there's it in a square. So this is it folding in inside itself. This is the inherent pattern that if you take O and N and put them together, you get P, and this is P, which shows you this pattern's naturally inherently in the Dougherty set too. So I'm going to get deeper into why all these patterns are so important here in just a second. But here, this is a bell. When I take the curve and I rotate it a little bit more, and I do a 3D rotation around it in a wireframe, it creates this bell. And here's what looks like an owl. This is when I put two J's next to each other, have them touch, and put an I inside of it, and you get an owl, which I thought was pretty cool. So you got the Bell Illuminati. I went with that kind of theme. It's just to be funny or whatever. I don't know. But yeah, there's obvious owl shape, which is pretty cool. So now let's look at some of the reasons why this is a better view, since I was able to zoom in. Okay, and that's a clearer view for the audience or anybody looking at it. So now it's going to zoom in more. Okay. I put a little folder together called Body Curves. Since we looked at the map of the day, now we're going to get associated as to why I'm so curious with part of the reason why I'm so curious with this shape. First we'll go to, and this right here is another map that I created last year that I had at the University of Science and Philosophy at Walter Russell Museum. And there is indeed a lot of really cool and extremely precise types of butterfly geometry and circles. So I'll zoom into different aspects of this. And this is the curve. Here's the curve from the other page. Let me take this basic curve that happens in magnetohydrodynamic geometry that's pumping off of the sun and hold it up next to our spine. And you can see that, boom, sits perfectly right in the back. I think that's your lumbar down here, lumbar support. Now you can take this shape and move it above where it's right here. I'll just move it over to this one. And it nests here, right where your neck support and where your head is. So there's one, and then you can do two, and boom, perfectly aligned spine. So let's just set this there. And let's see if we can make a copy of it and set another one right here over it. And bam, there's your spine right there, right along the first fundamental filament, or sorry, the fundamental geometry coming off of natural curvature of magnetohydrodynamic geometry. This is all this is. This is inverse square geometry that that is showing natural patterns, the fractal recursive nature of hierarchical patterns mirroring themselves on the Earth. These are interior subquantum and quantum patterns, but also exterior larger patterns. The larger is, it's a holonomy where it's all together, a gestalt type of synergy of this geometry, and we just happen to be, our geometry happens to fit perfectly. So there's, just for an example of two of the curves right up next to a perfect healthy spine with good curvature. You take this this geometry right here inside of A, exhibited inside of A. I don't really want to try to zoom in too much on this because it takes a long time to to load what it's doing. So you can see that this is this right here. I took the spine, I traced it from this image. I moved it along the axis of the spheres, which would be a branch or just one gate. Well, the street, so it would be down the road of a gate, because each one of these spheres are gates. So I took the spine, I lined it up, and I was like, oh, boom, perfect. There's a perfect alignment with spheres that match the curvature. So this is a blown up picture. Is that J? No, this is I at the bottom. There's a blown up picture of this. I've taken this image of a healthy spine and drew the image 3D, created it 3D, and then here created it into a sine wave. I did the same type of thing with the spine and created the curve here. So this is a close-up. N right here is a close-up of resting the spine and the hips inside of the Dougherty set, and I want to zoom in on these hips because this is almost too good to be true. It's really beautiful to see how the alignment of this is. It's almost astronomically impossible unless this is really where stuff is coming from. So you can see it right there, how light uses structure and geometry to open up and feather. This is a dynamic geometry. So when you see go through the vortexture of these double-8 solenoidal Kundalini type progression, you can count how many spheres using this geometry when you set the hips so precisely where they fit. Everything, there's a sphere cutter, and the spheres are always being cut, and we are cut out of spheres. And we do this with geometry all the time. Fundamental drawing teaches that we have sockets and bones, and the spheres lead to lines, lead to drawing characters. So this, which I'm going to get into in a minute here, because all the bones is this curve repeated over and over and over, and so is the Vajra, and so is any type of high performance design structure. Let's see if I can get out of this here. Okay, so you can see what's created like a butterfly here, which I thought was cool, but I keep talking about that butterfly. That's also the same geometry of synchrotron radiation that's coming from the sun. So as light moves down in the fashion of a Hopf vibration or Hopfian bifurcations down its axial alignment, this is how we align or realign with light and take in, the energies of what's around us. So let me just escape out of this. And we'll go into this folder that I have here. And since we're talking about bones, let's take a look at bones and see how there's a fat end, and a pinch. A fat end, and a pinch on all of the balls and sockets and bones and how they come together. Now, you can see it all throughout here. that is the strongest type of structure, and it's energetic, and it's also golden scaling. It scales in the golden mean. So there's the curvature of the spine again. Here is, if I were to take this image, which I can, which I'm just going to do right now, and pull it into Illustrator, into the body curves, and drop it, and take one of these and put it inside of it, you would see the exact similar types of geometry happening, because this is mimicking the Z-pinch. So that's going to take a minute, I think. So I'll continue on here. Here's a picture of what we were going through. Some close other images. Let's see what else we got here. Okay, so that's taken a minute, obviously. Oh, here we are. So you can see there's the pinch, and there's the hourglass shape. And this is, you know, the polar double layers. Here's the concentric cylinders of the filamentary Z-pinch, the concentric collimated structure coming off here. These are really, really interesting to see exactly the dynamics of where this lies up, especially when you take this image and drop it into the Dougherty set. The Vajra we'll go through the Vajra more about the bone structure. Also wings. Here's plasma or thrust, and this is the Z-pinch in the cathode, and there it is again, hourglass shape. There's your hourglass shape. Vajra, pinch. Again, inside of plasma experiments. I thought it was interesting I'm going into different types of animals here, and as far as the geometry, I'm interested in how similar vertebrates are and their curvature of their spines, and also the geometries inside here. And this looks like a plane's coming at you. Like, it looks like, if you squint your eyes, it looks like literally like planes are coming at you or leaving you. So the aerodynamics there is really cool. Fluid dynamics as well. So excited to work with that. Maybe next week, I guess we'll see what next week has in store for it. But there's your Vajra. Same shape. Hourglass figure. There's one of the first sculptures that I created. Pinching it together, showing how it opens and closes, actually wormholes, using tensegrity and fishing line. Here's another good example of, probably the best example of what I've been talking about the whole time. Your bones are this, but stretched out. If you go to Jerry Tennant's talk from the Thunderbolts project, the body, I don't know if it's the body electric or the body's like batteries. Each one of the bones are like batteries, but he goes on and talks about how it all comes from your teeth, how it all has to do with how healthy your teeth are with long-term degenerate diseases. So it's about voltage.
Something I could add there, buddy.
Yeah.
I read the book, The Body Electric, and I remember with the bones, it talks about growth and degeneration, and it kind of talks about it as a piezoelectric effect, where just like you could take like a lifesaver mint or something and crack it in your teeth, and it makes that sparking sound. I mean, piezoelectric. So it's like the calcium or something in the bones, as pressure is applied, creates a charge potential on one side or another, and then you'll have bone growth in relation to that charge potential. Something like that might relate a little bit to what you're talking about here.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's everything has to do with keeping a voltage inside of your body, and if you're going to be if you want your body to work and function well, it's about producing new blood, and new blood comes out of your bones. And so really it's about taking care of your bones and your teeth, and this literally. So did you read Healing is Voltage or The Body Electric?
I read The Body Electric, and I'm blanking on the author.
Okay, I thought I heard of both. Let me see. I'm going to type that one in too.
Yeah, it also, I mean, it talks about, I remember in that book, I think it talked about how basically there's a lot of unknown science about blood cells and their ability to like form into bone. And talks about kind of this notion like you don't want a metal implant just because of, the metal is the conductor. It's kind of basic in my mind. The way I think of it is it's going to be taking charge. It's going to be disrupting the natural flow of energy in the body, and that this book was talking about all these different cases of extreme healing, traumas to bone, like broken bones and things, and just that when you introduce I don't know, the right environment, that we can heal in some pretty extreme ways. Things that like most doctors are going to recommend, like a metal stent or something, be placed. That kind of stuff can be healed if given the right environment, the right opportunity, the right voltage, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I can relate deeply with what you're saying there, because I had a really bad break. U of M said it was the worst break they saw, a broken arm, when I was like 7. And it just kept getting worse, and they had to do 5 different surgeries. They put metal rods in my arm to hold it together, and ultimately I couldn't feel my arm. I couldn't move my arm. They thought they were going to have to amputate it for sure. And just like 6 months of electroshock therapy, finally I like started wiggling my pinky. After trying and like the willpower and like going with electroshock, watching my hand move with electricity, when electricity is on it, but not being able to move it. And then, like eventually finally starting to get that motion and everything back. And now my arm's 100%, but it's nuts. They had to split my muscle open because it was so swollen. They had to slice my muscle open. Yeah.
I've had so I'm not one to go to doctors, and I've had a broken foot, but I've had some injuries as well that I can kind of relate to, at least just this general notion of healing dynamics and the relationship of charge, which I kind of just relate to attention in a lot of ways. That like if we're trying to heal something, oftentimes it's just, we need to find ways to bring attention or bring energy, bring charge, however you want to say it, to that part of the body. Most recently, I had a nice cut on my foot that I stepped on some glass, and it was a pretty severe situation. And I learned a lot from that. I cut some nerves, and it was kind of interesting feeling the nerves growing back and having pains where the cut actually, the pain wasn't necessarily where the cut was, because it was, the pain I was feeling was just the nerves kind of coming back online, stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, I love this kind of stuff. The Body Electric is definitely a book that I recommend. I mean, it's a great one. It talks about regeneration and like newts. I think it's newts where you can literally cut. I want to say up to like 50% of their heart in half, and they can literally regenerate and still live. And just kind of, it goes into a lot of different things. It goes into how we're being affected by new grid technologies and those kinds of things. I don't know, it's rambling.
Well, you mentioned newt, and I have to bring this up because I just found this out this past couple weeks. There is a newt, and sorry to sidetrack, but this newt is the only amphibian that we know that gives live birth. Yeah, dude. So I'm like, that just, I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, interesting. Cool.
We're learning a lot of stuff from newts. Pregnancy and salamander. Are newts born live? Birth of baby newt. Okay. Facts about newts. I don't know. Maybe I didn't type in the right thing. Newt.
Well, I grew up with the fascination of reptiles. I would go out and catch reptiles and things. But I grew up in Houston, and there's newts. I believe there's newts there, but not as many, I believe, as up north. That was just not something we would see often. But I love all those kinds of. I love nature in general.
Salamanders. Wait, these salamanders are usually called newts. All newts are salamanders, but not all salamanders are newts. That just reminded me of, like, I don't know, not all Muslims are Islam, but all Islams are Muslim, or so, I don't know. Someone once told me that. I'm like, wait a minute, how does that work? Like, I don't know. You can be, I guess anything can work, really. You can be born into any religion and decide to leave it. But the general life pattern for newts is to be born in the water, live out of the larval stage there. It's just there. Spend their juvenile period on land, and then return to the water when they can reach reproductive age. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I mean, there's a regenerative name for growing back limbs. We've been into that a couple times on the show here. But yeah, it's cool just being able to, like, can we imagine just being able to grow back a limb?
Yeah, I think that book talks about it, and it's kind of like, because we supposedly we have that same gene that's I guess that the newt has, or like that gosh, what else, like starfish or something. It's like we have that same gene, but we also have our, the clotting mechanisms, and we have all these other things that in the long term of our survival, it's like, it's not like, to actually grow back a limb, we'd probably be constantly bleeding, like we'd probably constantly fluids would be constantly being like released from that the end of that, to kind of set the framework for the new stem cells, but also to push out any things that might come in to try and decompose the tissue.
You would think that way, like the nub would be all nasty and like all like have a bunch of stuff. But if you look at the way they grow back, usually it's dry.
With newts you're talking about?
Yeah, or
they have
or lizards. It's dry. It's a dry back growth.
True. No, that's fair. Like a lizard's tail, I can see that.
Yeah. But we would think, you would think it'd be a nasty gnarl, like the way we handle medicine nowadays. You'd think you'd have like it covered, and it would have to have this neosporin on it until it grew back or something.
Well, what I and I don't know where this is even coming from, but I thought I had remembered something, that it was like the clotting mechanism was the main thing that kind of was preventing that regenerative process. But I, like you're saying, yeah, we can see examples with a lizard's tail where it's not yeah, it's not a bloody nub. It's just the nub that slowly grows back. I have the book, Body Electric also talks about regeneration in children and how it's like under the age of 11, I believe, if a child has the tip of their finger chopped off, so like basically above the first knuckle, they will fully grow back their entire finger. But it's like after a certain age, that becomes less and less likely or possible for people to regrow their finger in that way. So that was another little anecdote.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I know people who've done that, and they're like, I swear I did. I'm like, yeah. You know what's even weirder is even the fingernail grows back. You know, it's like what? Like sometimes the fingernail even grows back, like after the tip is cut off.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. So, yeah, basically, I really suggest everybody checks that out on YouTube. You can check out, I'm sure, Jerry Tennant's talk. It's really good how the body is voltage and it all comes from your teeth. It really makes you think about taking care of your teeth.
I feel like I watched that one.
Oh, dude, I saw it live. It was in 2017. It was so much information at that event. So much information.
Yeah. Just a thought that I'm having with the teeth is, because I know in medicine practices, like the mouth is kind of a diagnostic area where you can look in the mouth and you can determine a lot about the body. And I mean, obviously it's good to take care of our teeth, but in my mind, I feel like it'd be more that things that are happening with the teeth are more a reflection of a bigger thing going on. So like we could say take care of your teeth, but it's more like take care of everything and your teeth will be healthy, because they are, again, like they're going to be formed based on charge potentials, because I don't know the exact science, but it's like the calcium. We know calcium has this piezoelectric quality. We know that pressure is going to basically induce a sort of charge or a growth that the body can, a charge that the body can then respond to, something like that. And I definitely think we can heal from cavities and all sorts of teeth issues as well. And it just might take a little time and a little attention, but I know there's people talking about that kind of thing, how to do that kind of healing.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to healing and hands-on healing. Where is the healers that are putting their hands on people and healing them these days? I mean, it seems like something that maybe some of the Christian church is doing. Oh, look at this. When you put it in, there's your how you get your polar double layers right there.
Mm-hmm.
At the certain points of the ring currents inside of the figure eight hourglass. But we were saying something good.
Just talking about healing.
Yeah, healing. I mean, like, you hear about it from like evangelical Christians, like the hands of power, the healing hands, and like
Makes me think about Reiki. It's kind of
also,
a modality that.
Yep, that's another good example.
Yeah, I definitely enjoy kind of talking about and trying to practice those types of thing. I think my general life history and experience has set a framework that, I don't know, makes me interested in those kinds of things. I don't know how else to say it, but I do believe that we have much more control, or maybe not control. It's just like we can relate to the physical processes of health way more than we give ourselves credit for. There's kind of that like spectrum of like in my mind, theoretically, it's all it's all mental, but maybe it'd be better to say it's all ethereal. It's all just the energy of the universe. It's all the
How about
same infinite
filamental?
substrate. Yeah,
Mental
however
has,
you want to say it.
yeah, mental's
Just
in there too. Just a play
yeah,
on words.
yeah. No, that's I get. I didn't catch that. That's funny, filamental. But yeah, just that there's like this infinite energy substrate that we are a manifestation of, and then we look back on that from our fragmented sensory perception and try and relate to that. And it's like, in my mind, I have an understanding that because we are that, we can connect to that. We don't have to be bound by the so-called physicality or the charge relationships, because we are charged. Like we are uh, like if we are from this frictionless infinite energy, it's just a matter of bringing that into this space, or I don't know, you could say that differently, but the point being is like there's kind of this spectrum that I'm always trying to iron out or figure out, is like how to deal with the practicalities of life, but how to also come closer and closer to that understanding or to that existence that's in deep relationship with that infinitude that we are, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. Drawing ever closer towards source.
mm-hmm.
I think.
But I feel like more and more I am really having experiences that are showing me the truth of that, and how powerful we really are, and kind of understanding, all these different modalities, whether it's Reiki or whether it's just like magic or energy work of any kind. It's like, in my mind, they're all tapping into the same kind of thing. They're just doing it from different ways, where like magic is kind of like using the totems, using the symbols of the world to hold intention or to reflect intention. And Reiki is more like, opening yourself up and being a conduit for just energy to flow. And um, so anyways, just, I don't know where I'm going with this, but that seems to be a general theme that I appreciate in my life.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's what keeps the conversation going. Is really moving inward towards the source, towards these energies that we already are, and we're feeling them, and we're working with them. And this is the mudra. I mean, this is the Vajra Mudra. I'm excited to learn about that. I keep talking about these, but I haven't studied them yet. I'm sure I'm going to do a whole episode on it, because when I am at peak performance, my hands don't stop moving. I like mudras and stacking and creating energies and vortices and playing with them and manipulating it and messing with the space and energy, and it's just so much fun. It's transcendent. It's timeless, and I don't know what I'm doing, but I know it's really good for me. And I would say the hopefully the environment too. I mean, I can feel it in the environment. It's a reflection of your heart. If you're really feeling it, it's just like dancing. Why people put these rave gloves on and they're glowing, because your fingertips have so much energy. Your hands have so much energy. I'm gonna go to my TikTok.
Yeah, that makes me think of playing guitar. I feel like you play guitar, is that right? Are you?
I did. I do music.
You're a musician.
Keyboard. Yeah.
Keyboard. Okay. Well, yeah, guitar. I was the mudras. I don't know. There's something. I definitely, when I play guitar, I feel like I can go into a space where there's a lot of energy coming through me, and it's it relates to that connection to the hands, like on a more physical, neurological level. It's just like everything is activated. Guitar, you're gonna requires both hemispheres. You gotta kind of have the more masculine, information-based side, as well as the more abstract, kind of feminine side, and you gotta, utilize both your hands. And I don't know. I like to think how we organize physicality kind of becomes that conduit for how we can bring in other energies or bring in a deeper intention, something like that. Which is like what we're talking about with mudra. It's like how you position yourself, or like yoga, how you position the body just can change the antenna. It's like we're a living, breathing antenna is another way to maybe see it, and we can kind of tune into different frequencies, tune into different spaces just by changing our orientation to the local astrology.
And tapping your fingers and repeating the repetition of the tapping of your fingers. That supposedly, when you tap your thumb to your fingers in a rhythm, and apparently it helps your mind get aligned. I've heard before. I don't know who.
I could see that.
But from an old friend. So this is like also pinching off these plasmoids. When you pinch your fingers, you're making these shapes. You're making these counter spaces. These are like the counter spaces of you're pinching your fingers. You got the top and the bottom, and you're making these types of hourglass shapes as well. But I've rarely taken any videos of me doing some of the mudra dancing or hand dancing, stacking. But there is one video I'd like to play here. But these, I guess Donald Trump did take TikTok down. The first one I opened, it said my page wasn't available. I'm like, oh
no.
Guess Trump won, but now I guess he didn't. So here's the hourglass shape everywhere. You can see it. It's how energy moves. Dude, I can't wait for the news hour because I just discovered something today called Lion's Roar Whistler Waves. Lion's Roar. And it's this at the center of the pinch of these. That's Lion's Roar. So I've been calling it the children or grandchildren inside of the set, but it's Lion's Roar, which is really cool. So let me do this.
You know, it's kind of, it's not, I mean, it's on topic, but it's not on topic. I still, I want to understand the Dougherty set better. I feel like I have a grasp, and I'd love for you to kind of fill in that, like, it seems to me, so it's kind of like you are taking a sort of flower of life overlay, basically like concentric circles, and you're just connecting dots and looking at the patterns of those connections. Is that a general way to say it?
I go through the construction of the Dougherty set and how to build it on a video here. But this is what I was talking about as far as like playing with your hands and playing with pinches and messing around. And that's cool, fun. And then you add smoke, and then all of a sudden, you know, you can vision. You can use it. People used to do it to predict the future, scry into smoke and look at it, because there's so much information that you can ascertain just looking at smoke and meditating on it and watching it. You can really understand the universe, and that's how one of the gentlemen, Scientific Lee on YouTube, actually had his vision of God's double helix, which is really interesting. He comes off in his own type of way, but sometimes he rubs you the wrong way, the way he talks. But so does Ken, whatever his name is.
Ken Wheeler.
Ken Wheeler, yeah, who recently was for the first time said something on one of my posts.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
On what platform?
Facebook. On Facebook.
Oh, is he on Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny that he finally decided to say something, and it wasn't constructive. I'm waiting to just like say the right thing. I should have just said exactly what I was gonna say right at first, but I don't know. It's just silly. So you asked a question about the Dougherty set. You're interested in knowing more about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen a comprehensive video of how it's created and
Right.
that kind of thing.
I've purposely done that to create mystery and mystique because that's kind of how you have to do it. I think these
Sure.
days, sometimes when you break something down, it's too simple in mathematics, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, that's really simple," and then you're like, "Well, guess what? The universe is simple too." And then they don't put two and two together, and then it just falls in the cracks. So you got to add mystery to some things, and like Einstein was good at doing. I mean, all of his equations are a mystery. They don't even work. Sorry, I had to throw that in there. Um, but I love reading Einstein, and I really do because he talks about quantum geometry and space-time geometry, and that's all that I do. This
Mm.
is space-time geometry. This is plasma geometry. These are plasmoids. These are enveloping living structures that are moving. This is how you construct it. Um, you start with squares inside of each other. You do the circles inside of them, and then you go off on a branch, repeating that exact same pattern over and over by squares that are the same size as the inverse squares, the circle, center circle.
Okay.
Um,
Is it by ratio? The is there what's like the no wait, never mind. I'm sorry. Okay, so you start with circles and you
no,
overlay the squares?
you start with squares within squares.
Okay.
Um, you see the square within square. That's what
Yeah.
shows its inverse square. That's the inverse. That's square within square. So that shows that it's square root 2 geometry, which is inverse square scaling when you move that geometry out and you progress it outward.
And I do think that I've seen when you do that overlay, there is phi ratio proportions. You might know better than I do, but like when you continue that process with the circles and the squares, I can't tell you where I saw it, but I remember there was some cool stuff of like showing, different ratios that come about when you do that process.
Oh, indeed, indeed. I'm going to do a whole episode called Golden Scaling. I think just because you said that, I think I want to do it next episode to help break it down for people to show them how prevalent the golden ratio is in here. I've been holding back just a ridiculous amount of information because all of this is promotion for my book until my book comes out. And then it's a series of books that come out after that. And then it's probably, I'm hoping, most likely, I mean, the universe just works on its own ways, but I'm hoping that it's the real life Harry Potter, because this is the real deal of how you open and close the universe and start playing with these, what has been called magic for a long time and what has been hidden in secret societies for a long time being exposed. This is a revelation, as though it is uh, uh, opening, laying, revealing something.
Mm-hmm.
A revelation is, what is it? It's just uh, showing truth. It's just revealing truth.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it makes me think of Walter Russell with kind of the cube wave field and just the notion of circling the square, squaring the circle, and just music of the spheres. Like, yeah, that's what you're kind of um, putting on. I don't know. Yeah, you could probably express how it relates better than I can, but I'm seeing the connections to all that.
indeed, yep. That's why I believe the first person. I mean, on top of me going out there and volunteering and helping the museum, but probably the reason why I was the first person, or first two people at the university's opening of the museum last year. You know, this is Russell. This is Russell 2.0. This is Russell like on crack in 2020 with better words and better vernacular and vocabulary to describe what's going on versus some of the archaic words that were used or other words that aren't used anymore in the electric universe paradigm. Here's a good example of golden scaling. That's a golden caliper showing you that it's perfect wave nesting inside of the caduceus, inside of the third gate, which all these spheres line up and create these vorticities of different types of filaments.
So you're finding the nodes and you're repeating the same circle or circle and square pattern.
I'm only highlighting circles that are already there, inherent in the Dougherty set after the construction of it.
Right. And so those come about. I'm like looking at it right now. I'm trying to see how those come about, how those circles are formed, because I see the concentric circles around the middle, and I don't know if you wanted to
pause
share.
It. One, I'm counting this circle. There's another one right here. Two, see that circle? Then there's another one right here. Three. And then the last one is right in the center. So this is the third gate. This is the third iteration off of the center. So this is three, this is three, this is three, this is three. This is coherence. This is what coherence is inside of self-organizing systems. And this coherence comes about through tendrils and spiraling filaments. These filaments come about because that's how energy has to work through space in birkeland currents. Even when it comes from my body to your body or through the air in etheric currents or conscious currents, the same river is active and activated. The Dougherty set is the river of life that's talked about inside the Bible that's coming out of the New Jerusalem. And if you read about what the river of life is, this is literally talking about it. And what does that mean for us as a species? Whatever that means for ears that can hear what the Spirit says to the churches. So I'm just showing this as a continual I'm compelled to show this, and the main message was that God is electricity. When this information came to me in 2003, main message was God was electricity. I started going to the churches, telling the pastors that God's electricity, and they're like, no, God's a lot larger than that. Electricity is just one aspect of God. So then I just, went.
So do you? So anyway, I don't know how to frame this. So when you say God's electricity, and I feel like I would say, like, I'd rather you say God is ether or something like that, because I kind of subscribe to. I know it's not.
I blindly said that when I was 19-year-old kid when the geometry came to me. That was the main message from God, though, from the geometry.
Gotcha. Yeah.
One of the main messages. So that's like it's like the I guess the trumpet's resounding sound ultimately was like God is electricity, and I just laid dormant forever and pushed that side of thought, continued to work with the geometry, and then all of a sudden 2017 rolls around and all this, there's electric universe everything, and I'm like, whoa, what's this? And I saw Don Scott's model of a Bessel function and what the birkeland current is, and you can that's what this is right here. So I brought it and gave all the images to him that I had, and he came back with his review of it, and that's going to be on the back of my book, and that's the best words that I could find from any person on the planet to review my book. I've given images and other things since to other people who I thought would get it 100%, and it perplexed them. Like Rupert Sheldrake, for some reason, he wasn't able to wrap his mind around it yet, but he will, because this is what morphic resonance is. This is morphic resonance. This is fields.
I'm blanking on his full name. I think his name is Michael, but you should know who I'm talking about. He creates the 3D forms. I think he was in the military at some time. I'm friends on Facebook. I don't know him or anything, but he, I believe he was one of the. I know. Gosh, I'm blanking on all these names, but basically all I'm saying is I like seeing the three-dimensional forms of kind of how. Basically, when you abstract upon the nesting of spheres in three-dimensional space, you start getting these inverted forms with like this what's that ray? The
Tryon ray.
Tryon ray, and anyways, you know, the inversion of that.
You're talking about Mikey Bergman and sound temples. Temples.
I don't know, maybe. I'm blanking on names, but I like seeing that, like, there is a principled way in which form comes about in 3 dimensions. Basically, I think is how you could say it.
Indeed, and I've taken the Dougherty set now, and I've sculpted all these shapes out of bubble sculptures. I've bubble sculpted them into being. These are literally taking the shapes out of the Dougherty and turning them into 3-dimensional forms. What are these 3-dimensional forms? Who knows? But they are definitely all the same types of plasmoids and geometries that you see in the heavens and in the skies. So I'm really, really excited. And in the flowers, and in, you know, the taxonomy of how the flowers spin, and the phyllotaxis of the seeds and the seed disbursement.
You're showing the 5-sided shape, and something that I've heard and have yet to hear contrary to is that every 5-petaled flower that makes a fruit has an edible fruit. Doesn't mean it tastes good, but I don't believe that there's any, for human beings, I don't think there's any 5-petaled flower that makes a poisonous fruit for humans. It could be wrong, but if there's exceptions, they're very few. And I think that's interesting. Whereas like 6-petaled, there's a lot of poisonous 6-petaled or 3-petaled kind of things.
I know for sure, if it's sweet, you can eat it. Yep. If it's sweet, if it's sugary, if it tastes sweet, it's edible. That's one of the ways how we move through nature.
For sure, I have done a lot of testing. I'm someone who puts things in, you know, new things in my mouth to taste, and you can taste when something's bitter, when something's not. And I'm not encouraging anyone to do this. I do this very. I have experience doing this, and if you smell it, you crumple it up. If it's like a leaf or a flower or something, you go through a process of like slowly introducing this to your system, and your system will tell you if you're connected to your body and you can listen to the feedback. Your body will say like, no, this is too astringent. This is too bitter. This is too whatever. Not something to eat. But I feel like I've been trying to hone that ability, I guess, tap into my natural side for some time now. That way.
It's weird, man. I mean, like that you hit a borderline when you're smelling stuff that's stinky is often good, but also is repugnant and odious. But like sometimes like cheese, for example, it's just I love cheese. I'm a big fan of cheese, but then sometimes this cheese just real stanky. But yeah, we use our taste receptors in our nose because our nose knows, you know. We know foul meat from the smell of it. You open up meat. Well, how do you know if it's bad? Even if it's after the expiry, it's usually still good, you know. So you give it a little whiff. Okay.
Yep. No, that's how
Your nose knows.
There's a lot of that.
You don't want to put it in your mouth because your mouth will tell you otherwise. It'll trick you and be like, that might taste good. You know, I mean, think about it. There's not something that you don't smell first, like before you put it in your mouth. Sometimes, I mean, like especially if it's questionable, you're like, I don't know if I should eat that meat. That's a little past expiry. You don't just go in with your mouth and start eating it first. All 5 of our senses are vortices. They're vortexes, man. Our orifices are vortices, is what I like to say.
That kind of brings us back to the topic of like curvature. I feel like we've been all over the place, but I definitely like thinking about the body and relating, like seeing the dynamics, like we're talking about our orifices are these sort of toroidal openings, or I mean, just seeing the body as a torus with the intestines being the central axis kind of thing. And I know I haven't listened to all your streams, but I know you've talked about that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah, indeed. Yeah, the body like a transformer or transceiver. That's how you breathe. That's how you can breathe and create larger effects in your environment, and you can see these effects, and it's scary how real they become, because you can really go into the circuit really deep, especially with breath work in nature. On a semi-windy day or a windy day, or not even a windy day, start playing with the currents and the circuitries, and you put your hands up and your hands start, all these pictures show their hands down. All these pictures show their hands down. All I have to say is put your hands up. There's one with the hands out. No, put your motherfucking hands up. Put your hands up. Put your hands up.
That makes me think a practice that I've started in recent months has been just to go hang. Like sometimes I actually do pull-ups, but most of the time I'm just hanging, and it's one of the best therapeutic things I think I've done for myself ever. I'm like a big fan now. It just, you build up that hand strength over time, but I feel like it connects me to like just my instinct, to my genetic history, and helps align my body and helps open up my vertebrae, the CFS, did I say that right? Cranial sacral fluid pumping, and I highly recommend that. Just hanging as long as you can, and just trying to find relaxation. Sometimes I can even do like adjustments now where I'll hang and kind of drop my body, and my spine like pops and opens up when I do it. And anyways, you got me thinking about that. Put the hands up.
No, that's awesome. I mean, I've never hung before, and I've never really heard of any of the benefits. I remember it was a big thing in the 80s, and I mean, with moon boots, maybe that was the 70s.
Oh, I do have an inversion table too, which I like as well, but I like hanging by my hands better just because I feel like I'm more activated in that position, and I feel like it's easier to integrate. Sometimes when I hang out on the inversion table, I feel like I almost overdo it. Like I just, yeah. Anyways, it's all an experiment, but
That's interesting. I don't know anybody. I haven't really heard of just hanging. Like, I recently heard a Rogan podcast about a climber who free climbs, and like that right there. So your hams are in your hamstrings are in your arms.
when you're talking about when I do it,
Well,
I'm just talking about grabbing a pull-up bar and just fully hanging down, like elongating your body.
right.
Your hands are up high. The inversion, you know what I'm talking about when I say inversion table?
Uh,
It,
uh-uh.
it's something
I
that it's like the moon boots thing, if I know what you're talking about. But this is just like a table that you start you start you sit down or whatever, you strap your feet in, and then it flips you over upside down, and you can go all the way upside down and hang by your ankles basically. Um, so I have one of those as well, and I do
okay.
like that practice as well. But I just like hanging. There was a guy there was an interview I saw on the Rewild Yourself podcast. If you're familiar with that, that's a good one.
Oh,
I think Daniel Vitalis. I don't know if he still does it, but it was a guy talking about like natural movements, and you know, I don't know how I'll just say it in my own words. It's kind of like it's obvious that we have a genetic history in relationship to trees, in relationship to using our hands and hanging and all this stuff, and that when we practice that, it's basically giving a feedback to our body that can then help our body find alignment and can help our body find a form and movements that are more natural to our genetic history. And it's just something that we neglect. We are always on our feet, and um, yeah, which we also have a long history of being on our feet and obviously doing that kind of stuff. But I like finding balance, and I definitely recommend that. It has helped me a lot. And yeah, strengthening that grip, and it kind of opens up your shoulders, opens up the back, and I had neck issues. So if you want more into the story, for like 6 months I had neck pains, and I went to a sort of a chiropractic healer, but she's much more than that. She has all different certifications, and she's really good. Anyway, so she popped my neck back into place. I didn't realize like the vertebrae in my neck were actually out of place, and so I then had to start learning and practicing how to put it back in place. And I haven't had. It's been a while since I've had pains because I basically got between the hanging where like I was finding alignment, finding that balance in my body, and kind of opening, elongating, and then literally learning how to align the vertebrae in my neck. I have since crossed my fingers healed that condition, but it was a long road, and I did a lot of damage just not knowing that that pain was because my neck was out of place. And anyways, yeah. So
interesting. That reminds me of, was it a pain that would go away and come back every 2-3 months?
yeah, well, it was a little more frequent than that. And I'm a sports player and athlete. I used to play football, but I play ultimate now, ultimate frisbee. Um, and it was just kind of like I was overexerting myself, and I just started getting this pain, and it wasn't there all the time, but it was there often. And like I said, I finally literally learned how to like move my neck around and use my hands and like put things in a place where the pain would go away, and then I had free movement of my neck, and it all felt good. And I I don't know exactly how. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that went into why that happened in the first place. Um, but it's hard to pin down cause and effect. But I'm feeling good now. So that's
Good.
that's
Yeah,
good.
I had some neck and back issues I had to work through, and it involved a really deep tissue massage, and you know, a hot bath, and I happened to do cupping that same night, and it was too much, man. It was just like,
Yeah, cup. That's,
oh man, it was just like but I felt so out of it, but I felt so good after, and I've never had that same exact bad back pain as before. Now I feel like there's a little something in my shoulder and my kind of like my shoulder and where my spine connects. But yeah, it's all helical. It's totally all helical, and it's
kind
good
of
to
like
have.
a pinched nerve thing. I get that every once in a while. Like feels like right behind my shoulder blade almost. It's like a. It's just I get like a pinched nerve kind of feeling sometimes.
Well, I sleep on my side kind of with my arm out, and my arm goes out of socket all night. Uh, Probably horrible for me.
Sounds like you need to hang. It'll strengthen those joint connections and
Hey, I can
find that
hang. I
alignment.
can
There you
hang.
go.
Yeah, I probably should, dude, because like I have these right in my right right in my shoulders is where all the pain is, and I can massage it, and it's like it's right at the tips of my shoulders, and it's just like this like pointed pain, and like I can massage it, and it'll go away and stuff and move around in my body, but like I think it's from the way that I lay down, probably double jointed or whatever, and my arm just goes out of socket and it's naturally comfortable for me.
Is
But it's
it just one side, or is it both shoulders, or?
I'll do it on both sides. I'll lay down on both sides. But then anytime I do too much side laying, I don't feel too well. And it like it'll mess with my respiratory and my left arm, and you know, and then it's like
Yeah,
shit, is this like a heart attack or
feels
something, you know?
similar to sometimes.
Because it's all around the same area and it feels like my lungs and right where my muscle attaches to the center of my chest and wraps around my back, like it's helical. You know, I was just kind of showing the image of it, but
Well, that's
right here, right here, right here, I gotta massage this and bang it, sometimes drum on my chest. And I think that's why apes drum on their chest, because when your muscle's growing and you're doing a lot of work, that will hurt on me sometimes, or right on my scalp where my brain comes together. Like I get a lot of like where my brain fuses, the corpus callosum, something like that. The same spot where Einstein was, where their brain fuses together left and right side. It seems like, I don't know if you can feel that or if it grows or what's happening in my head, but
well, that would be, if I'm imagining right, that's kind of, gosh, and I don't know the anatomy, but that's like where pineal and pituitary, like those glands are sitting on that, right? Or they're right below it or something?
yeah, it's right in the center there. I think right below it.
Okay.
I don't know. Let's look at the brain here. I'm going to show. Okay.
Well, another thing I was going to put out there, have you heard of polyvagal nerve theory or something like that? I don't know the key word, but when you're talking about your chest and sort of this tension in that area, there's a whole kind of theory. There's information about that if you look into polyvagal nerve theory. I think that would be the key words. But yeah.
Anyway, it's right here where they connect in my head that I have to massage right down the center. I don't know if that's common for anybody else out there in the audience. If you YouTubers want to make a comment or something, but and then like when I got into really deep philosophical conversations my whole life when I was a kid, I'd get severe headaches right here. Every time my eyes would dilate, I'd be on nothing, you know, just your typical maybe a couple beers and some weed, even when I was young, you know. And I'd get into these super deep conversations and I'd get a pounding headache down here in my hindbrain, or maybe not hindbrain, but right here in my cerebellum. I don't know what that means either. I haven't
I don't know.
heard people talking about that.
Yeah, I haven't had
Precursor.
migraines in a while.
Yeah, me neither. And then I had a migraine, and usually it's from me sleeping on my side or doing something stupid like that. I think it's probably just like nerves being pinched all night, and then like that's a good image of it.
Mhm.
Love the circuitry of the brain. All right, let's hop into the news hour here. Feel free to continue to comment as we move along.
Sure.
So geometric, the that the guy who did the bowls, Lapointe. When you study Lapointe's work with, you were talking about seeds, and this is a flower turning into a cherry or something, and then back into a seed, or starting with a seed. I changed my profile to that recently. So this is what caught my eye, where these two opposing spiral vortices meet that I talk about constantly, like Russell talks about. There is this space in between that I was talking about as this is the lion's roar. This is really cool. And this is the article right here. And this is the geometry for it. And this is exactly what I said was happening too. These are the reverberation of Whistler waves, Whistler modes, and one going one way and one and coming back the other way through the same tunnel or same loop, because they're loops. Everything is tunneling. Everything is tubes. It seems like, and these tubes, so YouTubes has got it. We tubes, us tubes, we all tubes. Okay, this is open now. We got this article here from Advancing Earth and Space Center. Okay. JGR Space Physics, observations of the source region of Whistler mode waves in magnetosheath mirror structures. The abstract. In the magnetosheath, intense Whistler mode waves called lion roars are often detected in troughs of magnetic field intensity in mirror mode structures. Using data obtained by the 4 magnetospheric multiscale spacecraft, we show that reversals of gradient of magnetic field intensity along the magnetic field correspond to reversals of the field-aligned component of pointing flux. I love this. Pointing flux of Whistler mode waves in the troughs. Important words to talk about in that sentence. Field-aligned component, field-aligned current, Donald Scott, Birkeland currents. These Whistler waves are going back inside of each other, creating this flux, this pointing flux. Point. It's Poyntting. If you're listening to this on the podcast and you can't see it, such a characteristic is consistent with the idea that the Whistler mode waves are effectively generated near the local minima of magnetic field intensity because of the smallest cyclotron resonance velocity and propagate towards regions of larger magnetic field intensity along the magnetic field lines on both sides. We use the reversal of the pointing flux as an indicator wave of source regions. Let's see if I can. So they're talking about they're talking about the image that we were looking at here. This. So I'm not going to get into it much more, but this is literally everything of the geometry that I'm talking about, because in the past we've talked about the cyclotron resonance, how it's a butterfly shape. On this episode, how it's a butterfly shape. Oh, wait. What's this? Did I just see butterfly? Yep, I saw butterfly down here. I just saw it. Butterfly electron dispersions. We use the reversal of pointing flux as an indicator of wave source regions. In these regions, we find that pancake or outer edge of butterfly electron dispersions above negative 100 electrovolts are good candidates for wave generation. This is all how, this is really, really awesome. There's a gyro radius. I want to use that word. I'm going to use that. Let's have that be the word of the day. GYRO radius. So we're going to look that up because I've been slacking on my word of the day lately. Copy, paste. The gyro radius, also known as radius of gyration, Larmor, or radius of cyclotron radius, or cyclotron radius, is the radius of the circular motion of charged particles in the presence of a uniform magnetic field. I knew this was important because, boom, where's the butterfly shape? Come on, ladies and gentlemen. What are we looking for here? Looking exactly for the butterfly shape. I was actually trying to do this episode on cyclotron resonance and the butterfly shape and how they embed that into our ears, how it all comes from cyclotron resonance. Meaning that the government, this is how the government uses resonance to beam it into our ears for certain people who claim that they are TI, targeted individuals. This is the geometry and the science of it. So I want to do a whole episode on that. I've been talking about it in a few past couple episodes. Your question? What's up? Sorry.
Well, the butterfly shape is just a two-dimensional perspective of what I assume would be three-dimensionals, right?
Yeah.
Like more of a toroidal shape.
Yeah. Look at hips. Look at your hips. We talked about it on this episode here. And I pulled it up here actually on this image. Right here. There's your butterfly. Okay, that's just the outside shape. There's the inside, and outside is your hips. And that's like a butterfly cyclotron resonance. It's both an inner and outer thrust. It's like it's like you can create the architecture of the cyclotron resonance is the topology of the hips if you were to create it into topological structure. But you could also take butterfly and use a butterfly.
So it looks Ken Wheeler talks about like the phase disparity between the north and south pole of a magnetic field, and that he has that equation which I'm blanking on, but basically that there's a ratio of phi between the opening, or however you want to say it, of the north and south hemisphere of a magnet, and he does experiments to show there's kind of like that four axis representation of the magnetic field. Anyways, the hips and the shape that you were showing, it looks like it might be pretty close to that, where like the one side is at a phi ratio to the other, but I could be wrong. It just kind of looked like it might be
it is
around that ratio.
It is indeed phi. It 100% is the lens to lens ratio. If I pull up this and go to this, no, Illustrator's taking too long. I'm just gonna have to. I literally drew it out today. I wanted to show people that it looks like a bug, a butterfly, an insect,
Nice.
possibly future wasps that are military wasps that are talked about in Revelation in the Bible in the end times. Who knows? I mean, literally these shapes, how well something works depends on its shape. How well something moves down a tube depends on its shape. This is tube dynamics. This is what's moving down tubes in our body, in our blood. Tube toruses, those move down the river the best. Tube toruses, our red blood cell.
Something that's coming to my mind, we were talking about alignment. We've kind of been all over the place, but in relating that to the hips, it's like the hips, maybe specifically the tailbone, like where
there's your butterfly.
Look. Spine.
Sorry to interrupt, but there it is again.
That's okay. Yeah. I was just gonna say that it's kind of like the the hips and the tailbone are kind of like this fulcrum axis, and when I feel like a lot of times when we are out of alignment or feel pains, like even shoulder pains and things, it's like they are these sort of symptoms, or they are responses to alignment that relates more to like our hips and this and sort of that center axis. Like if we had a tail, it's like the tail is the there for balance, right, with other animals, and it's kind of this connected right to that point where both halves of our body interrelate, maybe you could say, something like that. But yeah, I just was thinking about that with the hips, and
A
I
perfect.
don't know where to go from there.
Well, it would be like a perfect transition point for motion, and it is, because almost everything has hips, and hip shapes are similar in all vertebrates. Brain shapes are very similar. There's like dolphins have more of a 3 type dome of the shape of a brain, and humans, here's your butterfly shape again. Here's your 4 lobes. 1, 2, 3, 4. It even looks like the smaller lens and the larger lens. Looking at it here.
I wonder. I wonder if. So I know, like, I like thinking about the testicles in relationship to the brain, and also the intestines. Like, basically these things that have this like squiggly look to them, and have this hemisphere. Like, there's the 2 hemispheres of the brain, the 2 testicles, and you could look at it like the brain has the shaft of the spinal column, and the testicles have the shaft of the penis. But I wonder if there's I know there's kind of something in the anatomy that rests on top of each testy, and maybe that would kind of relate to this four lobe pattern. But just a thought. I don't actually know the answer to that.
Kind of reminds me of the ovaries, and like how there is a nested shape above. There is a 4. Everything in nature, in the biosphere, is constrained by the number 4. So the constraints literally come down on 4, which is goes back to Russell's work. And hang on, let me hit this pipe. Oh yeah, that's a good hit. This reminds me of Russell's work, and I mean everything's ultimately similar to the brain and the heart. It's why they well, everything's similar to everything else, and we can talk about that forever. And this episode's not really necessarily just about curves, but when you start getting into the curves, I want to do an X-rated episode, which I probably am going to have to put on my Patreon, which I have no problem doing, and I'll just refer to that, and then maybe I'll finally get some Patreon subscribers. Well, I probably don't have any Patreon subscribers because I don't have any content on Patreon. They're like, wait a minute, why am I subscribed to this? There's nothing on here. I just got had. I'm the asshole for not having any content on there by having one. Excuse me. Okay, back to the news hour. So these lion waves, I want to hear what they sound like. I keep trying to track it down to hear what they sound like. But really good. Check it out. Check it out on your own.
So there's a sound, or is it?
Oh, there's
a.
Oh yeah.
Okay, but it's a magnetic function. Like, it's a magnetic wave function.
Oh, indeed. Yes, it is. It is an electromagnetic. It has a sound to it, so it produces radio frequencies. And let me play the auroras real quick. I don't know if you've heard this.
I think I have, actually. Kind of like Yeah, you can go ahead and play it, but I think I heard it on a different
I
episode.
played a lot on the different episodes, but yeah, the sound is this twisting, whirling type sound that looks just like the muscles and the muscle fibers, and exactly like all of these threads, which is collagen. So most of the muscle fibers are made in collagen. And in the last episode we were talking about, or this episode I just had on the geometric view, or no, electric universe geometry podcast, was really crazy. We were talking about synthesizing this geometry, creating proteins, and growing meat. But that's what they're doing already. That's the future of food. Unfortunately, they're gonna very, very quickly here. We're gonna be told that we can't have red meat and we can't grow our own food, and that we have to, for purposes of climate crisis, just you wait, just we wait. This is
I'm preparing myself. I got closing on 6 acres with my girlfriend, and we're planning to do the homesteading thing and grow as much of our own food as we can.
good. That's the way to do it.
I mean, I'm already I already am growing food and doing the best I can, but I haven't had a place of my own to do it yet. So that's the new exciting thing about it.
Congratulations. That's awesome, man. I'm looking forward to having something like that of my own one of these days. You get there through hard work, and sometimes people get there through other means. But either ways, that's awesome that you have this property here, and you're with your lady, and you're looking into homeschooling and everything. Unfortunately, we're doing the. Are you guys already doing homeschooling, or?
No kids. I'm a dog trainer.
Okay.
But homeschooling would be the plan. But yeah, I've actually worked with kids a lot in my life. I've been a director of a day camp and worked as a camp counselor, and I've done outdoor education. So I've worked with kids in that capacity, and I definitely the plan would be to homeschool my kids and maybe have other kids come as well that could also be a way to make money and that kind of thing. But we'll see.
Awesome. Well, I wish you best for sure. There's we have a bleak future as far as during. I mean, I don't want to be the nemesis, but them being realist as well. It's just people telling people not to have kids anymore because they're all upset and scared, and just the amount of taxes that they're going to tax you for having a kid, for carbon taxes. This is right around the corner. I'm not even kidding. Listen to, like I said, Ice Age Farmer, Adapt 2030, and we're here. They have something called climate tracking, like they were doing the tracking for COVID. They were doing the tracking for COVID. Now they just conveniently changed it from COVID tracking to climate tracking, and done through satellites, and they'll tax you for every cow that you have in your property. There's no way you can get around it. This is just this is looking like bleak and abysmal, apocalyptic, dystopian nightmare, all of them happening at once. But we are so free still,
Yeah. Well, you're talking about carbon tax, and it's like they're trying to basically make it illegal to exhale or to breathe, make it illegal, so DMT, right, is illegal, and that's produced in everyone's brain. So you're illegal on that front, and now with the exosome known as coronavirus, it's now illegal for your cells to express particulates. So it's just funny how they attack us psychologically from all these fronts. And once you see it, it's just like, it's so blatant and obvious, but most people, I guess, are too busy with just, their daily lives to even look. So
I think carbon is 6 protons, 6 electrons, 6 neutrons, right?
Yeah.
So they're using 666, the actual structure, against the beast, which is the name of the man, 666, and they're calling us the beast and they're using the number of the element with the 666, which is really interesting. I mean, like, look at the dichotomy and or the just like double entendre anatomy of that. It's just so weird.
It definitely, I mean, I'm sure you know about the Bill Gates patents and
Yeah.
060606, and it's like the way I look at it. I mean, I don't even know if these people are real. People like Bill Gates, these figureheads that seem to be, the evil, whatever. They're my thought is that I don't know if you've heard of James True, and he kind of talks about this, but it's like he brings this notion that it's like Satan is a title, and it's like there's people that are just practicing this, whatever you want to call it, dark magic on such a level that they they want to be the one that is, framed in the apocalypse, or like they want to be these I don't know, icons of I hesitate to call it evil, but it most definitely can look like that from most perspectives. Anyways, I took a toke as well, and so I think my mind's changing gears a little bit.
Well, I mean, we definitely get into the government and a bunch of other crazy stuff, and we're you just got to stay informed. You got to be alert, and you got to not be deceived when torrential temptations downpour on everybody, and that's too many desires. So I find this statement more true and true as I see the advancing generations coming up. It all comes down to self-discipline and uh, self and self-discipline and discernment. So, and self-control, really self-discipline, self-control.
Yeah.
And with all this misinformation, you have to have ridiculous amounts of discernment. How do you gain discernment? You have to be disciplined at different things so you can start noticing other stuff. And that's not how you gain discernment. You gain discernment by a lot of the time how you're raised, your environment, but questioning, being skeptical, not believing the first thing that you hear, not believing the first 5 times just because you heard it 5 times doesn't make it true. And
that's how I was brought up, and I have to remember to have compassion and like understand the variables that have gone into why I can see what's going on in the world maybe more accurately than your average Joe, and you as well, can, like, there's things that have gone through our experiences that have catalyzed this perspective, and I think we just got to have compassion for the people that don't see it yet, and like you're saying, give this good advice that you're given. Yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to continue here with the news hour, just because I did throw some things on here that I wanted to cover, and I like to try to wrap these up now in like 2 hours versus 3, because sometimes they go too long. So this is dyadics, or quaternion division in the Dougherty set. Every wave, frequency, or vibration can be divided into quaternion symmetry. In fact, all of nature and the octaves are made of this. This is just first principle natural geometry producing compression and rarefaction in the constructive and destructive interference we call reality. Posted that last year. Love is watching. This is an older one from last year. It goes back, but you can see that the halving and quartering of the cube is the same thing that happens naturally in the octave wave pumping and the compression and rarefaction dynamics of this geometry. I didn't fudge this. This isn't an accident. This is how it actually looks when you highlight certain points inside the geometry, when you put lines connecting the dots. showing the systolic pumps and the toroidal dynamics. These toroids nests the same as this space filling inside of this. This would be like a hypersphere. And this is, you know, the same type of geometry that Russell shows in a lot of his stuff. Okay, 1,000-year-old precursor to stainless steel found in Iran. That sounds pretty cool. Surprising archaeologist. This comes from Gizmodo. Article from Gizmodo. Chromium steel, commonly referred to as stainless steel, is thought to be a recent manufacturing innovation, but new evidence suggests ancient Persians stumbled upon an early version of this alloy some 1,000 years ago, in what is a surprise to archaeologists. Ancient Persians were forging alloys made from chromium steel as early as 11th century CE, according to new research published today in the Journal of Archaeological Science. This steel was likely used to produce swords, daggers, armor, and other items, but these metals also contained phosphorus, which made them fragile. So here's more about the article if you want to check it out. Here's an image, and I'm 1,000% sure that I found this already out in my in this. This is really literally what I just found here in Michigan. Oh my gosh, now I gotta go get more because there's more of it. This really freaks me out because parts of it were black, parts of it were this color, and I thought it was obsidian because it's like a glass, but it looks like ancient glass, like that's exactly what I thought. It was a slag. What? What? If this is in Michigan and I show this, this is going to be a big deal. I need to find where this was excavated because I know Michigan is part of another whole chunk of area here across the sea. Persia. Where's Persia? Dude, this excites me, man. I have a piece of this sitting outside of my house right now. This looks exactly like what I have, and I've been trying to find it online. Okay. Where's the Persian Empire, Persia? Okay, let's look at a map. Not that kind of map. Okay. Persia, where's Persia? Around here. Egypt. This is like, man. Now I need to go. I'm gonna go get more of this today. That's what I'm gonna go do. Great, awesome. Well, now I have something fun to go do after this. Whoa, man, this is why I love doing this, man. These news, this whole thing, this whole show. So I didn't think this was going to be that good, but this article, I didn't even want to click on it, but now I'm really excited. How to boil water with magnets. This looks super cool. Oh, Jeremy Pfeiffer. Sympathetic vibratory physics. Sono what? Sono that. Sonothermity? Yeah. That's what's up. Sonothermity, internal vibrations of atomic substances and atomic molecules are capable of vibrating at a period frequency directly as their density, inversely as their linear dimensions, directly as their coefficient of wow, that is a mouthful. That's Keely for you. So check that link out. actually here. There's a YouTube link. I want to see this.
Here's a simple.
Probably not too long here. Not like my 3-hour long things. Dude, this is cool. Sonothermity. Man, I'll provide that link here in the chat. Or, you know, like everybody knows, it's all here on the Geometric View News, all the links. You want to go there too on Facebook. So that looks cool. This one's good. A number of physicists has suggested that dark matter is made from Majorana particles, but Scherer and Ho have performed detailed calculations that demonstrate that these particles are uniquely suited to possess a rare donut-shaped type of electromagnetic field called an anapole. This field gives them properties that differ from those of particles that possess the more common fields possessing two poles, north and south, positive and negative, and explains why they are so difficult to detect. That's really cool. Yeah, looks like a bunch of hop vibrations and twistors, and that's the same kind of field as the Dougherty side. That's kind of cool. These are the first waves. These are the first known Peruvian Chicamo waves, and they are the world's first waves to be protected by law. It is forbidden to build anything up to 1 kilometer near the wave that may affect the shape of the wave or even the wind. Someone said that this was false. I don't know if it's false or not, so check it out on your own. Magnetic movie, that looks interesting, and it's actually really cool. I remember watching this and listening to it. I hope I don't get a copyright strike. We'll just play a tiny bit of it. Oh, it sounds like Whistler waves and magnetic. Yeah, all of the Whistler waves and all the other ones. This is great. And it shows.
For example, in the corona, the magnetic field. The description that scientists often use is hairy ball.
Hairy ball.
We consider that those loops are in fact pictures of the magnetic field that we're seeing.
Oh my gosh, maybe we should just play this whole thing. Screw it if I get a copyright. This looks cool. Magnetic movie.
Magnetic fields are by their nature invisible. There are some things that nature does to make them more visible. For example, in the corona, the magnetic fields control the atmosphere to the extent that you can see loops. We consider that those loops are in fact pictures of the magnetic field that we're seeing.
Oh my God, wonderful visuals.
The description that scientists often use is hairy ball. Some of the hair is ingrown.
What's the title?
And the loop is attached to the sun at both ends. But some of the hair goes waving out, and when stuff gets on that open field line, it can stream out and become the solar wind. How hairy it is depends on where we are in the solar cycle. As active regions begin to emerge from the photosphere, it gets very messy, and so it gets hairier and hairier and messier as the solar cycle progresses.
And there's no active region around. Magnetic field can be generated just by the turbulent motion itself. What you see is that all the magnetic field tends to be crushed and centralized in these intergranular lanes in between the bubbles. So if you're looking at the surface, you see these little dancing dots, and they'll appear, they'll emerge, and then they'll move around, and they'll hit each other, and they'll cancel, or these things happen on many different time scales. Photons take hundreds of thousands of years to random walk their way from the core all the way out to where we see the photosphere, yet a millionth of a second reconnection or something that completely changes the topology of the corona. Any particle that is charged knows what the magnetic field around it is doing, and it has to move in a direction that's at least in part governed by the magnetic field. And if you have a closed loop of magnetic field, particles moving in that magnetic field will move in such a way that they will never leave. They orbit the magnetic field lines very quickly and whiz around back and forth, back and forth.
And that's what I do the geometry of.
Those magnetic field lines, they stay there as long as nothing else happens. If you're above one given region of Mars's surface, you might see magnetic field lines bursting out straight towards you. And as they get closer to you, they start to curve away and then turn so that they zoom off into the distance, and then they bend back and they go diving back down. But you're not seeing just one of these. You see this happening all around you.
Essentially, the Earth is like a bar magnet. The magnetic field lines go from the positive pole to the negative pole, almost like circular. In the Arctic, where the magnetic field lines go a long, long way out, away from the Earth, if you go far enough away, they get so weak that the field which is being brought here by the solar wind from the sun actually interacts and almost neutralizes the Earth field. And therefore the particles which are attached to these fields can come out and bombard the atmosphere, and that creates a little light.
That is incredible. I'm going to leave it on for the credits because if I show the video here, I want to make sure the credits get due to the correct people. So I'm pretty sure this is for teaching purposes. Well, of course, this is all for teaching purposes. None of this is getting monetized. So just to let everybody know and remind anybody of the listeners here. So that was great. That's what I do the geometry of, is those invisible field lines of Birkeland currents. Those magnetic field lines, those freaking beautiful. Oh. And you can see when they helically like wind and whistle and warp, and they even use the sounds of the auroras. Good job, guys. Great movie. So this I thought was pretty cool. This is also another cool group that I'm a part of, Tartarian Empire, because Tufan turned me on to that. Tufan Giffen, good guy. Interviewed him, had him on. That was an awesome conversation. Excited to have him back on Electric Universe Geometry on YouTube. This is interesting. Old patents and stuff. Real cool. People thinking about certain stuff. Old technologies or future technologies, recursions. I mean, that looks like the Riddler right there. The brain. Sending out your brain waves, talking to people through brain waves, receiving it, it looks like. Or hearing it, at least. Probably a telephone, future telephones. Yeah, these are future telephones designed for future telephones. You can see someone's lips. That's an interesting one. Cool. Just This reminds me of like ancient but future designs, like calling the angels, working with the ether, listening to the plasma. You know, what are we thinking about? Let's do this. Let's make this real. Acoust, figure out some sort of a hologram in a room to reverse these birkeland currents. Use the Dougherty set and go into these three-dimensional and virtual realms of the living neural networks, fossilized vestige neural networks of the universe that are there that we can get into, the Akashic. Real cool. Shock to bacteria activates nature's electrical grid. Thought that was topical. Speaking of shape, there's the hourglass shape again in the DNA. Hourglass shape. The phase conjugation, where it flips, creating the Ark of the Covenant. That's back to the beginning. I did this on the news last week. This is cool. The sound, the ohm has a shape, and this is what it looks like. Let's see what that shape is. All that loads. We'll look at this. This is cool. Closely stacked ohms and cytochromes, nanowires transport electrons. Oh, this is cool. This is wireless energy. I don't know, looks interesting. And these guys are like, yeah, cheers, it is. Free energy off the grid. Check it out. Imagine if we can power our cell phones and make electronic materials using bacteria in the ground beneath our feet. Our latest paper shows that this could be a reality. We have found that the common soil bacteria, Vajra, probably pronounced incorrectly, generates electricity using newly found hair-like appendages that function as highly efficient electric nanowires. The strength and conductivity of these nanowires, coupled with the ability of bacteria to repair themselves, could help create durable self-healing electronics using living cells. I think they're already doing that, and it's called wetware, and they're using our bodies. Ping, 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 ping.
Yep. It doesn't make me think also of like the nanocarbon technologies. Like there's one, gosh, I'm blanking on all these names, but on YouTube there's a guy who does a lot of experiments into making his own like batteries from living carbon materials and kind of testing conductivity and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think the advancements are going to come when we mimic nature, that nature is already making the superconducting nanocarbon tendrils or whatever you want to call them. But we just got to relate to that in a harmonious way. And yeah, that we'll have access to that kind of technology.
Yeah, we can tap into it. We can harmoniously tap into the grid mentally and physically, depending on what we eat with our diet. I thought this one was going to look cool, but I clicked on it and went through it quickly. But it's the sound of the ohm, and this ad keeps coming up, and it's really annoying. Sorry. But yeah, I think we can heal ourselves with the ohm. I think we can connect to greater parts of the universe with the ohm. Ohming, like just humming, meditating. Now I'm going to go find that piece of glass, ancient glass, and try to connect with these guys. Where is Persia? Ancient Persia? Over here.
Cool. It was good talking with you, buddy. I'm going to head out as well.
Hey, man.
Good luck finding the rocks. Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it. It was a good show, and I appreciate spending more time with you. And hearing your voice more on the show. It made it a good show, and it made it a conversation versus just me talking to people, which can get annoying, sure, and redundant. So thanks for coming on, Danny. Hopefully you can hop on maybe next week.
Cool. Yeah, my life's pretty uncertain at these times, but we'll see how it goes.
Awesome.
Talk to you later, man.
All right, man. God bless. Take care. Bye. Inter, not inner. My bad. Durker. Okay, here we go, guys. Hopefully I don't get a copyright strike. Moving the mic over. Here we go. I'm gonna pray us out and sing us mudras. Use my fingers to dance a code of protection upon you specifically and the audience members and anybody else who wants to listen. All right, guys. If you're still here, thank you for being here, and look forward to having you next week. Thank you all the listeners, and thank you all the subscribers and all your time. And really, really do appreciate you. We have we're really going up in views, and that's thanks to you guys, the listeners, the lovers out there. Love is watching. Thank you for doing that. The geometric view is a Love is Watching product. Love is Watching being. Thank you for doing that. Keep your eyeballs out. Pay attention. There's a lot going down this year. Be vigilant. Be mindful. Be insightful. Be loving. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being kind. Share the love. Spread the love. Become the love. Amen. Thank you for joining us for Season 4, Episode 38. Your mom's vagina.
Supposedly.
And your dad's penis.
In a way that really it's effective and it's zesty and it's good for you and you really just need to get to know it.
I'm in search of, I'm in earth love, I'm in living life, I'm in living color, I'm in airdrop, I'm in earth thing, I'm in earth thing, I'm in earth thing, I'm in earth thing.